Good morning, and this is Nem. Hi, it is August 25th, Sunday, 2024 at 12 o'clock, and we are going to be talking about M4S on Blackmage. Now, this is not going to be a super exciting, or I'm sorry, it's going to be super exciting, but it's not going to be a super easy fight to talk about because there's a lot of complications for Blackmage on this fight, in my opinion. There's a lot of stuff that is just very stressful or just plain difficult. And I will show you an example here of how to get through the fight. And I have a lot of mistakes in my pull towards the later half. So I'm also going to be pulling up another video to show you some examples that don't have those mistakes. And it's going to be a pretty cool time. I'm just finding the other video real quick here. Okay, so that should be everything. Let's get started. Let's talk about M4S. Now, M4S has 4 DPS positions like every other fight. You have ranged 1 in the top left, ranged 2 in the top right, melee 1 in the bottom left, and melee 2 in the bottom right. These positions almost vary not at all, and this is arguably the easiest fight to flex DPS positions on, except for the very first mechanic. Now, the very first mechanic has 4 safe spots for each player. And where those spots are change on your corner. Ranged 1 is the easiest. Melee 1 is the second easiest. Then it is ranged 2, and then it is melee 2. And luckily, the spots are kind of the same, just forward or back for each sides. And how it works is that you will have an object on the left cleaving half of your row. So you want to mentally divide your rows up, right? If you are ranged 1 or melee, or ranged 1 or ranged 2, this front row of squares is yours. And then if you are melee, you are in this row. Melees are in this row, ranges are in that row. We're not going to worry about the other rows, those are for supports. So you may find yourself in Party Finder, especially filling any of these spots. Just know that they're pretty much the same, except for a couple tiny differences. And in this first mechanic, that's the real one. Now, in this pull, I actually don't do that mechanic how I normally would, which makes it a little easier. But I'm going to teach you how to do it the best way, not the way I do it. It's funny because in this poll, I was like, if we clear on this poll, I'm going to be so pissed off. And then we cleared, because yeah, I don't like doing this fight on Blackmage. Having done all the ultimates that I've done, I find the ultimate movement to be easier than the movement in this fight. And you might think that sounds crazy, but it mostly has to do with how restrictive current Blackmage is on when you can move and how you can complete your rotation with movement, which is really annoying. We have the most movement we've ever had, yes, but when you can move is like really like annoying sometimes, right? So this first mechanic, let's take a look. We're gonna get started here. The first decision we make is pre-pull ley lines. We are going to pre-pull ley lines because we need to pre-pull ley lines in order to have it come off of cooldown later. We might find out that there's a more optimal way to do this in the future, but for right now, this is how we do it. We pre-pull ley lines and we don't delay 30 minutes, or I'm sorry, 2-minute cooldowns. We don't delay them. So we're going to pre-pull and then do our very standard Fire 3, Thunder 3, Swift Cast Amplifier, triple cast, Fire Force. Here's the thing to note about my clip here is that I'm having a latency issue where I can't properly double weave without clipping. Part of it is due to my spell speed and part of it is due to latency. There's an add-on you can get called No Clippy to fix this. Technically, I do have that version of the client installed somewhere, but I just don't launch it like 99.9% of the time. I kind of forget that I have it. So this is here. I'm clipping, so we are single weaving GCDs, single weaving triple cast, single weaving potion, and single weaving addle. That's not optimal, but that's just the reality of my latency. So remember the actual opener. If you made it to the M4S Blackmage guide, you probably know your proper rotation by now. Just remember to properly double weave. Like I started with Swift Amplifier at the start here, and it's still clipped. So then I was like, all right, it's clipping. So I adjusted things on the fly. So yeah, that's already going to make things a little wonky for the rest of the video. I also do the long cast to spare instead of the long cast fire 4 in the opener. I've detailed this in other videos that is just like my brain habit right now. But realistically, when your ping is good, you would short cast or long cast the fire 4 Zeno into the triple fire 4 to spare before mana font. I know that sounds like a lot of mumbo jumbo, but here what I'm doing is the triple cast fire 4 fire 4 long cast despair Zeno then mana font. It's a little bit different. Does it really matter all that much? A little bit. It shaves some milliseconds off the despair cast for you, which will add up over the course of the fight. So we'll Zeno, we'll mana font. We do add all this AoE earlier. This is our addle, and if you are the only caster, my comp does have 2 casters, but if you're the only caster, as long as you addle early enough here, you will be able to addle the next AoE as well. So yeah, there's a lot of room. Remember, we are going to build up to our Flare Star in the ley lines, and then cast it in the ley lines for that speed buff here, and then go do our next 2 Fire 4s for Paradox Thunder. This is all very standard, nothing too special here, guys. Beep boop, do that, and now the wings come out, and we need to look. We need to look at mechanics. Now, there's various patterns you can get, and some suck more than others. The ideal strategy here is to not blow our triple cast here. You want to slide cast, which is why I pre-position here. I pre-position here because the safe spots for this mechanic are going to be on this line or to the right of this line. See this line right here? To the right of it. Here or here, here or here. Those are the 4 safe spots, right? Because this is going to cleave this way, so this front part is not safe, which means I have to go back, right? And then it's going to be on the right of this dot right here, or it's going to be on this line, depending on what happens up here, okay? So we know we need to slide cast back. I'm going to blow my triple here, which I hate. It was a total mistake. My brain just melted. And then we know it's on the line because this line feeds directly into the AoE. And it's kind of the same for everybody else. You have those 4 safe spots. You got to figure out which one you're going to slide cast into. The proper rotation here is a slide cast fire 4 and then a fire 4 despair, or depending on the timing, because based on how the pull happens and how your cast bar is at, what your delay is at, you may need to do a fire 4 slide cast fire 4 despair, or a fire 4 then slide cast and despair. Just know that you're probably going to die a lot figuring that out. I die a lot figuring that out. And melee 1 is like the worst. It's very easy on ranged 1 because you're right next to this object on the left. So you can see it a lot easier. You have a lot more time to react, and you can see the front. Like, you're not looking as much, right? Ranged 2 isn't too bad, but it's still a little lame. I think melee 1 is just the worst for having to figure that out. So I'll showcase that, but you can transpose that to anywhere else rather easily, and you'll just find that it's quicker and easier to do in the other positions. And I can say that because I've done all 4 positions in this fight on Blackmage. So we're gonna do this. I see I'm in the right spot. I'm happy. And then I blew my triple cast here, which is really stupid because now one of my triple cast charges is going to be on a Blizzard 3. Blech, right? Disgusting. So what you would do here is you would slow cast Blizzard 3. Still don't blow your triple, right? Slow cast Blizzard 3, slow cast Blizzard 4, right? And then you would paradox, transpose, fire 3 into the next safe spot. And then you would swift cast and triple cast your fire 4s into the final safe spot. And that's if things go perfectly. But if things don't go perfectly, which they often won't, you will do this instead. I'm going to swift cast the Blizzard 4. And then I see this line is lit up, so we have to go this way, and I'm melee, so I'll go into this spot. If I was ranged 2, which is more normal for caster, you would be up here on this spot, same type of movement. But we're going to now paradox. We're going to transpose fire 3, and I'm going to try to get into this spot. So we get away from this purple line into our safe spot. This purple line is going to explode next, and this row is going to get electrocuted. So just go in the safe row. Don't have to overthink it. Get away from the yucky shock, and then wait. And pay attention to some of my positions here, because you'll see, like, if you do end up doing fake melee, the boss can get out of caster range if you start on the back half. So I started on the front half, you notice that, and then slide back if necessary, you not rather than slide forward. Otherwise, you miss a cast. Keep in mind that you might not have this safe spot be safe. You might have to go in first, and if it is in first, you can't go too far in. You want to be like around the marker. Um, on how far in you are in, on how far in you are in, but remember not to get hit by the lane. All right. So in this example, anyways, we go out. We're gonna transpose fire 3 and try to like sprint. Well, not sprint, but run here. Right. So this AOE is gonna clip this marker, but I need to cast. This is like a really crappy example, and I apologize for that. I'll show a little bit of a better example later. But this is how you salvage it, right? So you get as far as you can get to this line, because you don't know yet if you're going to need to move out or if you're going to need to move in. And either movement really sucks. And in any case, this is too close to the purple line. Really, we have to move closer in no matter what. So we're going to slide this way or we're going to slide this way. We're just figuring it out. But in a normal situation here, you would be triple casting now, and then you don't have to worry about it. You would fire four, move here, move there, doesn't matter. And that's why I say do the slide cast earlier rather than later, because you have to pick when are you slide casting, on the last mechanic or on this mechanic. And in my experience, I don't like slide casting on this mechanic because it depends on your teammate a little bit. I'll show you what I mean, right? So I've got this healer here, right? That's Swissy. She needs to adjust for me. Now, luckily, it's purple diamond, and I've already got hit, so I'm just going to slide in because I'm melee. But if I was ranged, I would stay out. So luckily, that worked out. This pattern worked out for us. But if this was pink diamond, I would have to slide cast out, and she would have to move really far in not to clip me because I didn't save a triple. So this is why you want to save your triple, slide cast the first mechanic, and then triple cast this one. Does that make sense? So we're going to get out of the way. And then it's going to be purple, and just look how fat those lines are. This is teaching you a lesson for later. Remember, the little dots on the corner of these are kind of your guiding light, so get in from that little dot, which is where we put our markers, and then you're good to go. Now, as melee and as ranged, you have markers to dictate like where your safe spot for this witch hunt mechanic is. The marker is going to be around these dots. Halfway through the marker is kind of your site. It's going to be your safe point. So you want to start on the in. If you're melee, it's less clear, but it's these crosses, right? So I'm going to be in and out. There's a good pattern and there's a bad pattern. This is part of why this fight sucks so much for Blackmage, is because it doesn't line up cleanly on one pattern and it does line up cleanly on the other pattern. So there's a pattern where like you have when it's widening. Widening means you start out, right? Like if you're a melee, for example, melee, like fake melee black mage, if it's widening but tanks first, that one sucks because you have to be far away. Then you have to be close in for the second part. Then you have to be close for the third one. And then you have to be close in for the fourth one, which is just like a lot of movement. And and it doesn't line up cleanly, where sometimes on that pattern you'll do a triple that actually uses like instacast on Blizzard 3 and Blizzard 4 because you just lose uptime, right? But if you're arranged, for example, it's the same thing. The same bad pattern is bad for everyone, and the same good pattern is kind of good for everyone. So it's just one of those things that like you have to kind of flex a bit depending on what's going on. So in this case, though, we're here, we're kind of back on track. Even though we had that like crappy situation, we've salvaged it. We did the slide cast successfully. We did have a little bit of clippage, so we're a little bit behind here. But at this point, no matter how you did the past, you will paradox, you will thunder, and you will move to your spot. Now we see that this is that terrible cursed pattern. It's widening and it's pink. It's going to be tanks first. Everyone's upset, so we have to be like further out, whereas normally we'd be right here, as close to our safe spot. So if you're ranged, you'd be like right here, as close to your safe spot as possible. But because it's tanks first, you would have to be out more. And that's just extra movement. All right, so we'll wait for the widening. And if you're ranged, I'll tell you exactly when to go for ranged. Don't worry. But on this pattern, nobody likes it. On the other one, it's very easy, and you're gonna see, when you experience it, that you just stand, you move an inch, you move an inch, and then when it's your turn, you just move out a little bit extra as ranged. You know what I mean? The only difference is, let's say it's like in and you're ranged, and it's like tanks first. That means you would that would be an easy pattern. But if it's healers first, you have to move in a little extra, and that's annoying. So there's just variance with this mechanic. It really sucks because some of the movement is just a little demanding at times where you don't want it to be. Our goal here is to get our flare star started before we have to move, but that's not always possible because we have to move extra, right? So if you can't finish flare star, you would Xenoglossy triple cast flare star transpose Blizzard 3 Blizzard 4. That sucks, I know, but it will keep everything aligned. We don't like triple casting ice spells, but that is a scenario that can happen based on your spell speed, your latency, and which pattern you get. Ideally, when you get the good pattern, what will happen is you will finish Flare Star without using any instacasts. You'll slide like a pixel, use your Blizzard 3, and then you won't have time for Blizzard 4. So you will Paradox, you will Zeno, and then you'll slide into the final safe spot, slow cast your Blizzard 4. You might need to re-Zeno or reapply your dot, and then you will transpose fire 3 as you slide behind the boss for the completion of the mechanic. But in this example, things are really cursed. So what we're going to do is show you the cursed way of doing it. We're out because it's widening, tanks first. You would be out as ranged as well. And then we get the despair off. We're going to Zeno, slide in because now it's healers. So even if you're ranged, you're going to slide in, right? And then we're going to triple cast the flare star because we don't have time. We're going to lose time. So then now it's melee, so I'll be in. But if you were ranged, it wouldn't matter. You're on triple cast, so you can just move out a little bit. And we're going to transpose Blizzard 3 because ice spells do more damage in ice phase. It's important to note. Now this is really suboptimal. You're not going to get as good of a parse when you get this pattern at this spell speed, which is like 2.4 or something. I don't remember. Okay, and then we will use our last triple cast on Blizzard 4, which we need to move in for because now ranged are going to go. And I just move behind the boss for that. And then we have 6 seconds on fire 3 here. I transpose. So after the Blizzard 4, we paradoxed, transposed, fire 3. Didn't reapply dot yet because we don't need to. We still have 8 seconds left on it. Now, it might surprise you, but at this point, we're doing more than 30,000 DPS with the triple casted ice spells, and we are top DPS in the group. Almost. Not top aggro, but definitely top DPS at this moment. More than a Pictomancer with more gear than us, keep in mind. So, we're going to get this fire 3. We're going to swift cast this fire 4. Everything is kind of subjective at this point to how it lines up because of the terrible patterns that we've had. So let's go. We're going to try to get our 4 fire 4s off. Our dot is going to expire a little bit sooner than normal. And we'll just reapply it at when we're done because that's the restrictions on slow spell speed and everything sucks. And we'll try to get our despair off before our ley lines comes up. Now remember, you can't delay your ley lines here. The whole purpose of pre-pulling our ley lines was to make sure we have it up in time for a mechanic later. So no matter where you are, you need to pop your ley lines immediately when it comes off of cooldown here, which for me means I need to pop ley lines before my flare star gets done, which means I'm going to mana font and ley lines before my flare star gets done, which is a little weird, but it does work. So we got that despair, Xenoglossy, and then there's the ley lines mana font into flare star. Okay, now you have to count these. This sucks because you're actually doing a lot with your rotation at the same time. Make sure you count which ones get hit twice. We're going to do our flare star. Then I'm going to use the fire 3 proc to free us up to use amplifier because it comes off of cooldown because I don't want it to drift too badly. Later it's going to end up drifting. We don't want it to drift badly right now. And then it's just fire 4 spam as much as possible. We've got a triple coming off of cooldown. We have a couple of Zeno charges. All this stuff is going to get used in due time as we're about to move. So she's casting Symphony. We're trying to get our Fire 4s to at least 3 stacks before we have to move. And there it is. So we have to go, what is it, B side and its stack. So what we're going to do is we got 3 Fire 4s. We're going to Paradox, triple Swift, do our Fire 4s to get into position, transpose our ley lines over there. Just like this. Kind of sucks. Now this is C. C is safe, and it's partners, and I'm fake melee, which means literally I just move very, very like minimal distance. And that's kind of why I like fake melee on this fight, is there's a few mechanics where you just have to move less. I don't have to, now obviously moving here would be the same distance if I was ranged 1. This is ranged 1 position. That's not too bad. Melee 2 is not too bad. Melee 1 doesn't have to move at all, so that would be ideal there. And then ranged 2 has to move maximum different distance, which just sucks. And that's just the variance of the fight. There's a lot of different outcomes, a lot of different patterns, and all of them suck. But that's why we have triple cast here, so that no matter what you're doing, where you're going, you can get there. And we're going to use triple cast to get our last 3 Fire 3s. We do have Swift Cast for the Despair. We need to reapply our Thunder Dot. And all of this is being done in ley lines. Fantastic. So it is going to take you time to learn all the individual spots for your position. You need to know your spread spot, you need to know your stack spot, and you'll probably only learn that for ranged 2, which is just always to the right, and that's it. It's always out and to the right. No matter what spot you are, out and to the right. So looking at the boss, if you're on B, you'd be here. If you're on A, you'd be all the way out there, right? It's always out and to the right. That's just how it works. But if you're melee through 2, like I am, it's in and to the right, which is just less movement. So we stack for this. I'm casting. We get that cast. We reapply the dot. And then we're going to use our Xenos after this Flare Star. No, we're not. I don't know what I'm talking about. We're going to do Ice Spells and slide into our clock spot. Here we go. So there's that. Boom, boom, bam. Transpose, Fire 3. Now it's Electrope's Edge. And a big part of struggling with this fight on Blackmage is doing your rotation, keeping your count of Fire 4s, keeping your count of your dot, keeping your count of your Xenoglossies, and when you're paradoxing and your timers, at the same time as counting how many times you get hit by mechanics. It's really, really quite annoying. And ultimately, this is yet another example of a mechanic that, depending on how you get hit, how many times you get hit, you're going to have to change what you do to meet the movement requirements. And that means like it just requires a high degree of flexibility. You're not going to cast all the same spells all at the same time every single pull, because what you need to do, how much you need to move, changes every single pull. So you're constantly problem solving for your situation, which is the Black Mage way. But in this case, it like actively feels like some combinations are fighting against you, and that's why it's like a frustrating fight. I got really frustrated doing this fight because it just, you fail sometimes for reasons that you're just like, this feels so bad, and then other patterns you're like, this feels so good, you know. So there's a lot of variance. So in this case, we got long timer, and we get hit once. I think just once. Yeah. And so we're just doing normal rotation here. We got our 4 Fire 4s, Paradox, we're reapplying Thunder, Swift is coming up, and we have almost 3 charges of Xenoglossy ready to go. So we're casting Fire 4, we don't have far to go. I'm going to Xenoglossy my way there. We don't have enough time to get this Fire 4 and this Despair off because I Swifted the Fire 4. So we're going to use our Fire 3 proc as a desperation attempt to extend our timer, which is okay. And then we're going to triple, Despair, and Flare Star while we get into our spot. And again, depending on how this pattern works out, whether it's spread, whether it's stack, which way is being cleaved, you might have to run all the way across the arena, or you might have to run only a few squares. And that's why triple cast, regardless of where you're at here, is going to be really important. I kind of got lucky in that my triple cast at least covered Despair and Flare Star. But the mistake that I made is when I Fire 3 Swifted Fire 4, what I should have done was Fire 3 Xenoglossy, triple, and then done the Fire 4, Despair, Flare Star. That's what I should have done. But, you know, it's going to take a long time to get familiar with each pattern and each mechanic. And ultimately, I don't have them all down yet. But this will at least get you through for now with pretty good damage. So because we got hit once and we were a long timer, we count it the same as 2 short timer. So we're going to stack under the boss. So not too bad. And then what I should do here is transpose Blizzard 3. I don't know if I actually do it, but let's see if I do it. I do. Let's go. Okay, and then we're going to slow cast Blizzard 4. We have 9 seconds to figure out where we're going. So I'm going to paradox. And then we see, okay, I need to run this way because I was short long. That's the way to think about it. We're going to Xenoglossy, and then we're going to reapply Thunder. This is where you will addle. In the addle timing on this stack, if you are addling the stack, you might be addling cannons next, depending. The way my group does it is that I addle the stack and the other caster addles cannons. But if you're addling cannons, you don't got to worry about it, but this is where you would addle the stack. And if you addled the previous mechanic, your addle should be up for this one as well. And then we're going to slow cast Fire 3, unfortunately, and I'm just going to like inch my way there with Fire Force. On some patterns, you'll actually have a triple cast here. If you were a short timer, you'll usually have a triple cast here, and you'll be able to move in. But we don't because it's just been one of those pulls where we've gotten a lot of the bad patterns for us, and that's okay. We still get up to 4 Fire 4s. Our healers are understanding of Blackmage in my group. They understand that I might not always make it to that stack, and that's okay. They're good with that. I got like half of it, I think, this time. And I'm going to apply my Thunder, and we're going to slow cast Fire 4. And we need to prepare to move. Because again, like there's just never like enough of a reprieve. This is the first reprieve we really had in the entire fight where we can sing cast for a little while and not be worried about counting a mechanic or doing a crazy movement. So our goal here is to just make sure we have Swift Cast and Xenoglossies and a reapply of Thunder, the Fire 3, these instacasts to move us into the next safe spot. On top of, we will be using Mana Font and our ley lines is coming up, and that's very critical that we pop it as soon as it comes up, or else again, the whole pre-pull ley lines falls apart if we don't. Okay, so here we go. We're using Despair. Good times. We're going to reapply our dot. Swift cast this Flare Star. And now we have a couple Xenos, and we're looking, and the boss turns this way. So we Mana Fonted, and we're casting Fire 4, and then we're going to Xeno our way out of here. Watch. Xenoglossy. Ugh. And then we're going to ley lines right here in the middle. So when you get to your safe spot, left or right, doesn't matter. Our ley lines goes in the middle, because you can max melee your ley lines right on the edge and still get full ley lines uptime for this upcoming mechanic. All right, so that's what we're going to focus on. And then for now, we're getting our Fire 4s out, and this is where we are drifting Amplifier because the timing is so tight here. We're running out of time here. We're running out of time here. I don't really have like an OGCD window right now to pop that, unfortunately. So there's a better way to do it, but I'm drifting it for now. We're going to Paradox. We're going to pop that. And then we're going to check our debuff. We have yellow, so we're going blue side on the edge of our ley lines. We apply Thunder, and we triple cast. So in this case, I think I get this purple debuff all 3 times, which sucks because it's like maximum non-ley lines time because you have to move out away from them. You can get more if you get the closer debuffs. But the triple cast helps us move to it. We Despair. We're going to Flare Star in our ley lines. I clipped there. What I should have done is Xeno Flare Star, but that's okay. And then I have to make sure I'm behind the tank. I know it's hard to see with all the spell effects, but the blue name is in front, and we are getting our ley lines buff here. It'll take you some practice to get that off. We're going to Xenoglossy, we're going to Xenoglossy, we get the purple again, and we're going to Blizzard just in time. Blizzard 4, our ley lines are now done and we can play normally. And now we have to swap. No, we don't swap on this one. So we're just going to play normally. I actually Swift a Fire 3 here, just because I know I'm about to have to move, even though I end up not having to move because I got the purple one, so just good times. I'm like, oh, what a wasted Swift cast, right? So it can be difficult. It can be difficult to refine this. You'll spend a lot of pulls. You're going to want to look at a lot of logs to see what other people are doing. But even the logs don't tell the whole story. Remember, like you can't tell what patterns and what debuffs, what everything that people got through logs by just first glancing it. So you're often going to see, how did they pull off this cast? How did they pull off that cast? You have to think did they get a different boss pattern? And you can look at the boss's attacks and look at debuffs and stuff, but it's a lot more work. So just keep that in mind that there are optimal patterns for Blackmage and some just suck. We just got like almost every like less optimal situation possible here for Blackmage, which I think makes it like in a way a good example of how bad things can be and how to deal with that, because it's going to be a little bit harder than just the smoother mechanics where you can just slide cast into this corner as Blackmage, you know what I mean, or you can just like literally back up one millistep as Blackmage instead of having to go all the way out here. I think that'll be more obvious to you on how to resolve those if you get those easier debuffs. But this is showing like worst case scenario, what you can do to recover until we get to later. Later is going to be really funky. But yeah, so we have Wicked Jolt. Now, your tanks might put this tank buster on top of you in Party Finder. In my static, at least, they don't do that, but in Party Finder, they do that to me all the time. So in this example, the tank should always shoot it this way because there's nobody there, right? Like if your brain is thinking, I mean, if your tank's brain is firing on all cylinders, they will just shoot it this way. And if it's not, they'll probably point it at you or point it at like the rest of the party. So just be prepared to have to slide cast out of that. And then since we get our 4 we paradox, we thunder, and this is where your position is determined by your roll. So I am fake melee 2, so I will be on the A marker. And this is where like I like being fake melee better than ranged, but I'll show you how to do it on both because no matter what you do, melee or ranged, you need to know how to do it on both because there is a swap. So we are finishing up our cast, and mentally what you should be thinking here is I need to get as many casts out as fast as possible because I have a lot of movement coming up and I need to save my movement spells. I need to get ahead on my rotation. Think about it as like being ahead so that I'm not stuck in that phase of slow casting 4 in a row during heavy movement. It's going to happen no matter what, but you want to get there as fast as possible. So we're going to thunder, and now we have to know safe spots. Your melee range safe spot is in between this dot and like the halfway mark, I would say. Like you want to be in this window for your first safe spot. Your second safe spot is on the diamond. So on the diamond, in here. On the diamond, in here. Those are the 2 safe spots that you will be bouncing between when you're up close. I'll show you the out far ones in a little bit. All right, so we're getting our blizzard, paradox, transpose. Trying to get ahead, fire 3, and here we go. You're going to want to slide cast as much as possible. All right, so see, in this window is your safe spot, and then on this marker, on this little square or diamond is your second safe spot. So we will slide cast, bloop, slide cast back. We're at 4, fire 4 stacks. We will paradox, swift cast, triple cast, slide, right? Fire 4. I use my potion here early. This is technically not the potion window. I'll show you the potion window in just a second. It's when the boss goes, egads. The reason I popped it early is because I've been struggling with potion clipping due to my latency at the right time for many pulls. So I decided to just take the loss on this pull and pop it early. You will pop it in a little bit if you're not having latency issues. But we will slide. We will flare star. We did not have to swap there. If you have to swap, you'll go to the diamond and then you'll move out a little bit. You don't have to go too far, and then you can move back in. But in this case, we didn't have to swap. So we Zeno. We don't have to move right now. We Zeno. We mana font, and we start slide casting once again. Fire 4. Fire 4. Fire 4, and now this is again where you would potion, and where you want to place your ley lines here is on the line in this little in between. So you'll see my ley lines are coming up. Your ley lines here, and so you'll have to stop for a second in between your GCD and then finish your slide cast, like finish moving over, which means you probably want an insta cast for it. Unfortunately, I don't do that correctly here, and I delay by casting Fire 4 because it didn't line up perfectly. So my ley lines are now late. You can't afford late ley lines here, or you miss out on precious seconds of your ley lines. So just make sure you save an instacast like the Fire 3 proc or the Zeno or Paradox for that moment. And then you just slide. Now this is where I have to swap, and this is unfortunate. It is unfortunate because that means I have to leave the ley lines. But essentially, I'm just going to back up and do minimal movement, just like that, and the healer ran extra far in front of me, so I don't have to. You probably will have to move all the way out when you do it. And you can see that the out movement kind of looks very similar. So if you look at Bean over here, right, he's not on the diamond. Whereas like when we jump left, right, we're in between like this dot in the diamond. We're in this like little spot window. He's actually next to his diamond and then not on it. And then his next safe spot is more like in this window here, not quite on the line, but in between. And that's how the range do it. It's rather annoying. So I think melee is like less movement. I think melee is optimal here for Blackmage. And if you are ranged, you can discuss that with whoever you're with. But usually you'll be paired with a tank, and tanks aren't going to want to move out. So you pair best with another ranged here. So now we are in our ley lines trying to get uptime. We should be like 6 seconds ahead of where we are on our ley lines timing. I'm 6 seconds behind here. But if you do it right, you can get full ley lines uptime. And let me pull up a video of someone who actually does it correctly. So let's go here. So let's take a look at this. And this is Sean Z. They do a really good job and can showcase their ranged position a little bit better. So as you can see, they had, I mean, it's not perfect. They have to interrupt their spell cast, but you can see behind the diamond ranged, and then over here, away from the diamond, but to the right of this dot. You know what I mean? And we'll showcase it so you see how it cleaves out. The wider, the further you are. And I think they do their 2-minute. Maybe they don't. Looks like they're not 2-minuting, so I guess I can't really properly showcase it. But just trust me. Just trust me, it's doable. It's very, very doable. You can get all these 2 minutes. I've done it perfectly. I promise you, you will get your full ley lines uptime and your potion during this mechanic. It's very difficult. You're kind of going to wrap your head about it. And I promise you that most people, most groups are going to argue delay your 2 minutes until after. That's not how the good groups are doing it. We are not delaying 2 minutes, but you could. Just know that Blackmage parsers don't really care about what anyone else does. It does contribute to overall group DPS, but the DPS check on this isn't tight. It's a mechanics check. So you can do whatever you want. You can 2-minute whenever you want, and nobody can really complain about it because the DPS isn't tight. It's very, very lenient. If everybody survives on the mechanics, you're going to pass the DPS check, even if you have really low damage, right? For the most part. Now, if you have like all 710 gear and nobody's in the group has 180 loot, it's maybe worth arguing about, but for the most part, it's not worth arguing about. And so because of that, like this is the optimal 2-minute window. If you choose to delay to make it easier, that's understandable. Just know that it's going to delay your future 2 minutes as well, which should be fine, to be honest. So you can do what's comfortable, or you can do what's like super hardcore. It's up to you. Just remember that if you do use your 2-minute here, you should be way ahead. Again, like probably another 6 seconds or so here. And now we have to move. And so your ley lines should be done by now. And you'll fly away and you'll be like, nice, I got all my ley lines, pretty good. I have to transpose here and Umbral Soul, which is unfortunate because I didn't have a Fire 3 proc first. So ideally you would. You're going to Thunder, Addle, Paradox. You would transpose Fire 3. You can see me shaking my camera because I'm so frustrated that I used my proc, you know what I mean, before we got here. So that's my bad. And we are group 2. So whether you're ranged or melee from this point on really doesn't matter. I actually end up taking ranged positions for some of the mechanics coming up, but everything is treated the same. Everything is treated the same from here moving out. If you are ranged, you are more out, but you resolve things the exact same way. So it's okay. So we're going to save an insta cast after a 4th fire 4 here to move into the position. I start moving a little early. And then we go here. And then we look across. And we see the one moving away from us is the 3rd one. So we have to go down here. That really sucks. I don't want to move that far, but we will. We're casting Despair, Thunder, Xenoglossy. Then we're going to slow cast Flare Star. We might have to move in or out. On this case, we don't have to move in, so we can decide to slow cast. If we have to move in, we have to Xenoglossy Paradox our way in before Blizzard 4. That's all. Now we have to figure out what's going on next. I'm going to triple a little early here, and the tanks get these tethers. Now, as melee 2, you would normally be up here, ranged in the back. Ranged 2 is going to take this spot. Melee 2, melee 1, ranged 1 are the 4 spots. So just know your spot. I actually, just out of habit, like Lala has more movement here, so he slides into the melee spot, and I just slide into the range spot here just because it's convenient. Benefits of being in a static, to be honest. But, you know, you can get into any spot. It's just a little bit more annoying on some more than others. And then we just sit here. Casters don't move. If anyone makes you move here, they are an evil monster and they don't care about your struggles on Blackmage. So we are blasting away ethereal conversion. So if you get fire here in this pattern, this is another example of how we got the worst possible outcome of we have to run so far away all the way to 1. Sometimes you just have to side cast a little bit over here and you're good if it's water knockback right. But again, there's so many varied patterns with giant movement on this fight that it just feels like it's working against you. So you're going to see my rotations start to fall apart, start to misalign. And there is an answer. I promise you, there is a perfect answer and a perfect way to plan it out that no matter what pattern you get, you have a solution, even if that solution is different between mechanics. But I don't have that mastery down yet. So some of these things you're going to be like, wow, you really messed that up. Well, yeah, I did, you know, but it's going to be okay. We're still going to do like high 70s plus parse. Um, you know, so you're definitely going to be doing plenty of damage to get your group your clear and to come out saying, okay, I did pretty good. Next time I'll do better, which is ideally a good place to be for a first kill. So how are we going to do this? Tail thrust, right? We're on 1. We're slow casting as long as we can. And then ideally we wouldn't delay ley lines here, but again, things didn't line up. You would pop ley lines early. Um, and then we're going to go, and you can minimize the movement here. So I do extra safety gaming movement. Let's just rewind a little bit here, and let's look at where the AoE happens. So realistically, you should stand here. This would be the optimal spot. And then you just slide over to like here, I think. Yeah, so very minimal movement. I think you could actually put your ley lines in the middle and then slide from one to the other. That would be pretty worthwhile. If you get water knockback, you gotta ley lines on one side, get knocked out of them, get knocked back to them, teleport to them, mid-second knockback, and then finish your ley lines and then move to middle. But we got fire here, so you know. And now my ley lines are late. No, right? Which means they're going to be late for the next mechanic. So now I'm just moving them to middle because I'm like, man, I'm super screwed. I got to get this amplifier off. Just do your best. Do your best. The optimization, hopefully you can kind of see where you would put it in this example. So we're going to do our fire fours. We're going to do our despair. You know, we're having a good time. Flare stars coming up. Bam, bam, boom. We are trying to recover. Now, for this mechanic, you're going to want to save some insta-casts coming up. I don't really have much left. We're going to transpose fire 3, and usually you'll be in fire phase as you hit this, which really sucks because you're like, I need to cast 4 fire 4s, I don't have a triple. Ooh, you can actually save a triple, I think, on the last mechanic if you do the optimal uptime. So save a triple there if you can, and then you'll have it here, and that will save this problem. But we don't have that, so we're going to look, and we see we have to go to the 2 marker. You got to get really good at this. I paradox. I slow cast fire 4 here. And then we see the next safe spot. And I swift cast. And we get to 4 fire 4s and we have to move out. I'm going to have to use my fire 3 proc because things are not good. And that's it. And the reason why we moved out, remember, was that it was fire sword. Let's just look at that one more time. It's going to be hard to get this down because you have to look, you have to move, and you have to do all the stuff going on for you. And then you have to watch for the fire sword as well, or the thunder sword. Thunder sword would have been like in here, fire out here. And then, of course, we still have to fire 3 because things are messed up. If you had a triple there, that would not be the case, so some room for optimization. Now we're getting to Midnight Sabbath, right? So we're going to finish our slow casts. This is where it differs based on if you're ranged or melee. Melee can move up to the boss. Melee 2 can move up with a tank, and I think that's pretty cool. But if you're ranged, you have to go out with your healers, and that's okay as well. You resolve it the same way no matter what. It's just in your corner. So ranged 2 is in this corner, ranged 1, melee 2. And remember that we take static positions. So melee 2 gets north and northeast, right? Melee 1 gets west and northwest. Ranged 1 gets south and southwest. Ranged 2 gets east and southeast. So you get your 2 corners, and they are yours no matter what. And then you just resolve for the mechanic. So we're going to move up. And in this case, we have spread because it says scattered. And this wings one landed first. So we go in here and we spread. And then we see that we have a second wings. So we'll stack in the other one. If this wasn't, we would stack in the corner if it was a cannon, but it's not. And then you just do the same middle or out as you would normally do. So we're going to come all the way back here and handle things like normal. Remember to get your addles out when you can. Wicked Thunder is an AoE that should be addled typically. The other caster covered this one. And then we will go and check that it is water knockback for later. And again, there's just so many patterns for this fight, so many ways to resolve it. And so you're going to need to be flexible. And I think that's been a theme in this raid tier is be flexible, which is hard. It's hard on Blackmage, right? I mean, look at M2S. Like a lot of people are upset at like how the pheromones mechanic works, how it's designed with randomization or as close to random as possible, where bees can spawn at weird and problematic angles, and how you have to be flexible. No matter what strategy you use, you have to be flexible to deal with that randomness. And so that's kind of been like the theme for some of these mechanics, is they're saying, well, there's a lot of possibilities. You're gonna have to figure it out. You could argue that's worse game design. I don't think so, because they do give you the tools to be flexible, but it is frustrating. It is difficult. So here we have towers. Because we're melee 2, we get the second tower. You would just get the one in the back if you were ranged. Not a big deal. I like the melee spot for this tower as well, because it's just closer, and it's like, simple movement. We take our sword, and now this is going to be so funny. I am so sorry. Like, on this epic saga that we have had of just bad mechanic patterns, highest movement requirements, the most cursed of cursed, this is where we get the easiest pattern known to man. Finally, the game throws us a bone. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. And I still, even with the easy pattern, because I delayed my ley lines earlier, this is where we pay a price for a sloppy job. So I'm going to show you a not sloppy example in a second, right? But because we had ley lines, my ley line should be up already. I should already be in them, blowing the timer on it, getting those fast casts, right? Because this is again another example of a 2-minute in a terrible like high movement mechanic. Now, if you delay your transition ley lines, you can also delay these ley lines till after this, and that's okay. But it is more optimal, higher parse, whatever, to do it during. So if you're the kind of black mage that enjoys like that optimization, like trial and error, trying to get that stuff down, this is going to be one of those tight windows. Let me show you a more complicated example that does this correctly. Because seeing 1, 2, 3, 4 and still seeing me mess it up is, an experience. So let's see, this mechanic shows up here. So here's the ranged 4 spot, right? Or ranged 2 spot, 4th tower for Shazi. Thank you, Shanzi, by the way, for doing such a good job. And you're going to see how they do ley lines based on the safe spot. So things are aligned for them, right? They're blasting. Pretty clean run. And then it's going to be 1. And they're casting their Fire 4s. And then it's going to be 3. They're moving up. And they use their line lines in front of 1. And again, you can see their Fire 4s are up here. They're almost at 4. Looks like it's 1, 3, 4, 2, I think, for him. Gonna get ley lines, gonna get your instacasts out. Look at how he delays in the ley line because he knows the timing so well that he knows he can delay in the ley lines that cast, then move to 3. So it's 1, 3, 4, 2, I think, right? And then he goes back. He moves the ley lines there to get that instacast, moves out, goes back in, grabs the cast, moves to 2. That's how you do ley lines here. And then back to ley lines. It's crazy, right? For the triple cast, like just clipping those GCDs with those delays, just moving your ley lines just optimally. And that's why this is going to be a fight that I think as we do it more and more, black mages are probably going to fall in love with the complexity and like the different variations, but it's so frustrating to learn, right? So mapping out all the different variations, it's hard. It's very, very hard. And we don't have a lot of black mages that have cleared it at this point. So like it's going to take us time to get there. But I wanted to show you that example. So now we can go back to my crappy example with the delayed ley lines, right? And also I saved up 2 charges of triple cast here, which ideally, would not do. I was like, oh crap, I forgot about that, right? We're going to triple, we're going to ley lines, and we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. The easiest pattern known to man, 1, right? And then we're in 2. I retrace here, which I really shouldn't have, I guess. I should have retraced here, but that's okay. 3, and then we go to 4. So as you can see, like I don't get most of my ley lines, not super clean. Should have teleported back to them at this point, but And then it's water knockback, and I've already retraced them. So like they're just outside. So just know if you do retrace, like Shazi did, make sure that if it's going to be water, you can reach the ley line. So just an example of some mistakes, some more mastery required here. You'll get knocked back. Ley lines will expire. You get knocked back. You will have triple here no matter what. And then you will paradox. And then it's back to tank busters. We do this just like we did before. We're already at 4 stacks of fire, so we're just going to finish up that line. Do you kind of see why I hate this fight though? Like it's very difficult fight. Like as an ultimate raider, I'm saying this is probably more difficult. Like learning non-standard last tier, all the variations for DSR was definitely harder, but this movement is more restrictive. Like there are less solutions. The solutions were difficult before, like memorizing the weird openers and weird lines at weird times that never repeat was very difficult for old black mage. But now the solutions are just so restrictive now. Like at least there was a very clean solution for every problem. You just had to memorize it. Now in this case, it's like the execution is really difficult, even if you have it memorized, because everything is just so tight and like you're really like praying for milliseconds, right? Pre-pull ley lines to save 4 seconds for like 8 minutes into the fight kind of stuff. It's interesting. It's interesting. So we're gonna have a fire mechanic coming up. Here's an AoE um, but that is after ion cluster. So here we go for towers. Now remember, uh, we do snake prio on this, so DPS will move clockwise. Longs take towers, shorts take cannons, and you'll take the first cannon that meets your color. You're going to see me do a crazy mistake on this because it's the first time I ran into like a really cursed pattern. I'm telling you, this pull is just full of cursed patterns. Um, but we have short blue. No, we have long blue, which means we're going to take tower first. Okay. Otherwise, we would take the first yellow cannon. That's how I think about it. If I have short blue, I say first yellow, and I look for the first yellow cannon. But we are tower first, so we're going to do our casts. We're going to Xenoglossy to the tower. It's north. Slow flare star, and then remember it's fire out next because he's on fire. Mana font. And we're moving out for the fire. Boss is almost dead. We're doing pretty good damage. Look at that 3 next to the Blackmage. Blackmage is doing damage, even with all these mistakes. And now we have to take a tower. Now, we are blue. We have to take the first yellow tower, and this was the first time in all my PF and all of my static, this was the first time where both towers on my side as melee 1 or melee 2, and even as ranged 1 and melee 1, where both were the same color as my debuff. So my brain broke here. I literally just had a moment where I was like, huh? Why are you blue? And then I was like, why are you blue? And I was like, well, if you're blue, you have to be yellow. So I looked back and I was like, but you're also blue. And then I was like, duh, it can be in the opposite corner, which means I almost wiped the group here, right? Look, you see me run between. I'm like, what do I do? And then I see it. I'm like, oh my God, this cannon is pointed at this tower and it's going to kill everyone. It's my fault. We're going to wipe. So I sprint, I run, I go, no, 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 no. And I at least point it in the middle, which is still, it's supposed to be pointed, this way. Um, and I kill our bar. But at least we don't wipe. Sorry, Ari. Oh my God. So yeah, just be prepared that, you have to keep going around the clock mentally until you find your tower or your cannon. Not your tower, but your cannon. So that you don't do that. But look, we saved the healers and stuff barely. Like they were sweating. They were like, "What's happening? What's happening? We're dead." You know what I mean? Everyone thought we were gonna wipe. And then we didn't. So, and then of course it's tail thrust. So remember we're running to 1, and this movement is super cursed. Again, like all the way there to all the way here. That's so much movement, right? So just be prepared. Should have a triple cast here. Everything is in shambles at this point because of what just happened. Like there's no, we're barely hanging on. Like we are off the deck. We have flown off the cruise ship. We're in the ocean. We're drowning. You know what I mean? Like we need to get our ley lines popped. We have to do the uptime movement here in the middle, which I don't have down. Like I wasn't even thinking, right? You got to learn that uptime. You got to put your ley lines up there. You got to triple cast to get there. You know what I mean? Like that's all the stuff you should be doing. Instead, I'm like playing it super safe. I'm not standing here because I don't know the spot well enough. We're all laughing and crying because I just murdered Ari, and we're so close to clearing that you know what I mean? That things are just a mess. So just remember, keep a cool head. Practice makes perfect. Practice until you can do these things without thinking, and you'll be able to put your ley lines like here, slide cast out to here, move through the ley lines. Maybe you have to leave the ley lines a little bit with an instacast and move back into the ley lines, stuff like that. You could actually pre-prepare and ley lines early. I think the optimal is you would lay lines as early as possible, way up front, and they should expire before this first hit goes off. But that's going to take some learning and some experience to figure that out. So we're going to move across. Everyone's just desperate for the clear at this point, and we are just doing our best to get Fire 4s out. There's the late ley lines, and we have the last mechanic coming up. And we're just going to try to end on a Xenoglossy here, right? If we can. Boom, there it is, and the fight is done. So yeah, that is a crappy example of just how bad things can go for you, and you can still come out on top with like a blue or like a 70 plus parse or whatever, doing pretty well. Ultimately, those are the things we need to clean up, though. Getting this fight clean is going to take a lot of work. You're gonna have to watch a lot of videos. You're gonna have to look at a lot of logs because this is a challenging fight for Blackmage, like more challenging than we've seen in a long time, because of the different patterns and the way things line up. Um, so mastery of when you triple cast is going to be important. I strongly recommend going into the balance and reading the discussions on this fight. Just remember, in the balance, we have Arcadian for Savage, and we need to just burn through this. There's a lot of discussion. As you can see, the Black Mage community is like, oh my God, this is crazy. We have excellent diagrams per usual, and when to slide cast, when not to. So go ahead and check it out. Thank you so much, guys, for being here and waiting so long for this video. I wish the example was a little bit cleaner. If I can get a really clean example in the weeks to come, I will definitely upload that for you because, we got to make up for this travesty of a cursed pull. But until next time, I'm Nem. Thanks for being here, like and subscribe, and I hope to see you on the next one. Till then, see ya.